What's up guys, it's Matt. I'm here today with a video showing you how to install the AWE boost gauge that I unboxed in the previous video. If you missed that video, it's going to be in a link right around here. Quick shout out to Johnny Daytona 675 on Reddit, and he reached out to me when he saw a couple of my videos, and he has created a B5 Audi subreddit community where people can post their projects or questions, and he actually commented on my previous video telling me that he was going to install the AWE boost gauge tomorrow. So I'm going to do my best to get the editing of this video expedited so I can get it up on YouTube and you can use it to help you along with your installation. I hope you guys like the video. Enjoy. The first step in installing a vent-mounted boost gauge is removing the vent. I used a trim removal tool to remove the left vent. With one vent out, I popped the whole vent assembly out and set it aside. To run the wiring harnesses up to the gauge, you will need to drill a small hole in the back of the vent housing, approximately 11 millimeters in diameter. I used a series of drill bits to get this hole drilled, starting out with a small pilot hole and working my way up to the desired size. Make sure, if you are using a drill to make this hole, that you don't drill too far behind the vent housing, because there are all sorts of wires and stuff back there that doesn't like to have holes in them. Now I removed the dash panel from under the steering wheel. First, you'll need to remove the fuse box panel. There are 4 8mm bolts that need to be removed. There is a bolt under the cover to the left of the steering wheel, one bolt under the fuses, and 2 to the right of the steering wheel. With those bolts removed, the dash panel can be removed. There are 2 wiring harnesses that need to be removed before the dash panel can be fully removed. If you look out from underneath the steering wheel, you should be able to see the hole that you drilled in the vent housing. Tape the gauge wiring harness and sending unit harness together and feed them up through the back of the hole. Now, with the help of my beautiful illustrations, I can show you what to wire into the wiring harnesses. First, the gauge harness will be wired to the red and black wires provided in the kit. Wire the white, green, and red wires to the length of red wire using a butt connector. Wire the 2 black wires together, also with a butt connector. The crimp rings will be attached to the ends of the black and red wires. The sending unit wire can be attached to the corresponding colored transducer wires. The black ground wire should be attached behind the bolt under the fuse box. Similarly, the red wire can be attached to terminal 75 with the crimp ring. Now we can run the boost hose into the engine bay. I first removed the weather strip and rain cover to access the ECU housing. Using an 8mm socket, I removed all of the ECU cover bolts and cut a hole in the grommet at the front of the housing. I then fed the long length of boost hose through this grommet into the ECU housing. If you shine a light from the inside of the car, you will be able to see where to feed the boost hose into the car behind the ECU. Now, I located the fuel pressure regulator line and spliced the T-fitting so the boost hose is now connected to the fuel pressure line. I used the zip ties included to secure the fitting. Now again, with the help of my illustrations, I can show you the hose setup inside the car. The shorter length of boost hose gets attached to the transducer on one end and the air filter on the other. Make sure the arrow on the air filter is pointing towards the transducer. The longer length of boost hose coming from the fuel pressure line will be attached to the other side of the air filter. Make sure to mount the transducer somewhere behind the dash panel so that the hose is pointing straight down, or the opposite orientation to this illustration. Now, with the wiring and boost hose all set up, we can install the gauge. But first, we will need to make some more modifications to the vent. 2 holes will need to be drilled in the base of the vent. This will allow a zip tie to be looped around the wiring harnesses to keep them in place. The vent flap will also need to be modified to provide clearance to the new wires. As you can see, when the vent is closed, the notch taken out of the vent flap gives the wires some clearance. At this point, the vent assembly can be pushed back into place and the wiring harnesses can be attached to the back of the gauge. Push the gauge and the vent assembly into the vent and turn on the ignition. If everything is wired correctly, the needle should make one sweep and then return to 0. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you found it helpful or entertaining, give it a like and subscribe for more DIY content. Also, check me out on Instagram at DIY Garage, where I post sneak previews and other pictures of my cars. Thanks again for watching. I appreciate the support.